Ready? All right, guys. Well, welcome again tonight to the Sugar House Community Council meeting. Due to some Zoom bombing, we're still, at least we're showing some pictures now, but we're going to do all questions from the chat for all presenters tonight. It seems like it's going pretty well, so we're just going to keep going with that. Couple things first. So the store manager of Target couldn't make it tonight. They're on a time crunch, but she wanted me to relay some information. So the soft opening for Target is Tuesday, March 9th from 5 to 10 p.m. And then the grand opening will be Sunday, March 14th. Just in my interaction with her, she's an amazing community supporter. So we're looking forward to the relationship. The old Dunkin' Donuts across from Sugar House Park is going to be a Granite Credit Union. Nothing too exciting, but I've gotten that question from a few emails. Let's approve the minutes from last month. Can I just get a show of hands? Perfect. Let's go to Devin for the secretary report. Devin, do you have anything?
Awesome. I was going to say, can you unmute me? No, I will drop the link for the minutes in the chat just in case anyone wants them. And then I also wanted to just, it looks like I basically the wrong version of the January minutes got uploaded to the website. I'm going to work on fixing it this weekend. I'm deep in thesis hell right now, so I haven't gotten a chance to get to that. But I will make sure that the corrected January minutes get up there. Thank you to the folks that have noticed that. You will notice for February, I kept the minutes fairly light. And this is just because we had that long panel and because it was a more of a conversation, it didn't really make sense to put like minutesy type of things. If that really bothers folks, I can go back through and add some more to that. But I figured folks that are interested in that will probably just watch the recording of it. So and then just a reminder that we do have recordings of all the minutes. Erica has been uploading them on YouTube because she is amazing. I've included the link for February's meeting inside the minutes. And so if, you'll start seeing the links to the previous month's meeting in the minutes for those. So if you need to go back and listen to anything. I think that's everything from secretary stuff. Thanks for bearing with me.
Devin, do you want to talk about your bill that's in the legislature right now?
Sorry. Yeah, it should, I thought it was going to go to the House today. I don't know if it is or not, but Senator Iwamoto has worked with me and another student, Rebecca Hardenbrook, on SB 163, which is a campus safety amendments bill. It got held in a Senate committee for a little bit, and it got unheld, thankfully. It passed the Senate. We had to take out the Student Safety Commission that was part of that. But what it does do is it's going to require automatic report sharing and complaint sharing between local and campus law enforcement. So if a student accidentally reports something to, say, campus law enforcement that's actually an SLCPD's jurisdiction, that report will go to the correct place. And then it's also going to require disaggregation for all USHE institutions by the level of the building for any types of crimes that happen on campus. We're also going to be working with USHE to do a student safety commission, which was a part of it was going to go into the statute as well as part of this bill, but yeah. Yeah, that is everything. So.
Well, nice op-ed piece in the Salt Lake Tribune.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, thank you. It looks like Mike Bagley's not on. He's at the fire station tonight. So our bank balance is $10,708.51. That's all. I think Detective Meinzer is not here tonight. Is there a lieutenant on the call? Brandon, do you know which one he is?
Do you know his name? I don't see.
No, he never got back to me of who it would be. I'll text him. Let's go with the canal project. I noticed that Tiffany Carlson's on. So if you could unmute her.
Yeah, it just takes me a second.
Okay, that's okay.
Taking me a second too. Can you hear me? I actually have something to show you. Can I present to you?
Yes, let me make you a co-host.
Just for a minute.
Hey Tiffany, are you guys doing the 1100 East project, the curb and gutter on 1100 East, and the
Yes.
canal, all three projects?
So the curb and gutter on 1100 East, we're doing this canal project. What was the other one you asked about?
The whole reconstruction of 1100 East.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to be seeing you a lot.
You're going to be seeing me a lot. We actually I talked to Ramin today. There's another project on McClelland that's coming up, and there's another project that's south of I-80. And so, yes, you'll probably be seeing my face a lot. Yeah, we'll be around quite a bit, I think, this summer. So. And the 1100 East project, there's really not much to say yet. When I talked to Ramin today, he's the Salt Lake City Engineering Project Manager. And he said it is slated to start sometime in April and will last about 2 months. And so we're just getting with the contractor to sort of figure out what those details are. And I will come back to you with some of those as we know more. Yeah.
Tiffany, are you able to share your screen now?
I am going to give it a shot. Yes, I think so. Can you see? This always weirds me out because I can't see you guys anymore. Can you see this, the PowerPoint here?
Yeah.
Okay. So we came a couple months ago and talked about starting this project. We're now kind of knee deep into it. So just as a recap, we are replacing the old canal. It's over 100 years old. It's been under here for a long time. And this section here needs to be replaced and tie into this existing. And so they kind of started right here and they've been moving south. And now that they've got that taken care of, there's this little tie-in right here. And so we're working towards that right now. We started in January. The canal piece of this should be completed by the end of March. And then we'll have some paving and landscaping and stuff like that to finalize, should be done in June. So that's our schedule. We've been doing some water line loops and gas line loops, and there's always stuff underneath here that we run into that we're finding that nobody knew was there. And so it started out a little slower than we had anticipated, but we seem to be moving pretty well now. So right now, we have been talking a little bit about having to close Wilmington for that tie-in right there, and that's coming a week from today. So we went out today and we delivered flyers to all the businesses along there, letting them know. And we also sent out an email. Some of you are probably on that list, but what it's going to be is here on Highland, the traffic is still going to be open north and south. You just will not be able to turn on to Wilmington. So Wilmington will be open, but it will only be accessible from 13th East. So you have to kind of loop up to 13th and come down to Wilmington, or you can sneak your way through a parking lot, most likely from Whole Foods, but that is not a Salt Lake City detour, I should say. So everything else should be available and open on Highland Drive. It's probably going to be slow moving though. So just keep that in mind as you're going through this area. They think it'll be a couple of weeks, 2 to 3, but it should be open by April 1st. So that's kind of our hard deadline, to be open by April 1st. So these are just some pictures of some of the stuff they're doing. I know it's hard to see from as a driver on the road, but it's kind of cool to see what they're putting in there. Way upgraded stuff. These are the loops that they have to go around these boxes. They take a lot longer than we like. This is kind of what it is like right now. What they're going to do at Wilmington though, instead of leaving it dirt like this, they will pave that whole intersection and finish it up so they don't have to go through and kind of take out that intersection again for the paving. So that's our plan moving forward. We do have some contact information here. If you have questions, you're welcome to call or email us. And then we do have a little blurb on the Salt Lake City Public Utilities website that you can click on there, and it has some more information as well. So if you want to be added to that email list, send us an email at this saltlakeCityComms@gmail.com, and we'll add you to our, we usually send them about weekly to kind of just give people an update on what's happening. This will likely still be the same email on the 1100 East project. So if you're interested in that one as well, we can add you to that. Kenzie, I saw you on here. I got your email and we've added you to that as well. I know I haven't responded to you yet, but I have added you to that as well. So that's it for that project.
Tiffany, do you mind putting that in the chat when you're done?
The phone number and email? Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet.
David, somebody from the community had a question. It says the sewer pipe on 2100 South is being increased from 12 inches to 18 inches, which is sooner than previously modeled. What is the basis of the maximum flow used to size the pipe? Can you answer that question?
No.
We'll get that
I
answer for you.
cannot. I don't know if we have anybody from public utilities on that might be able to answer that question, but that is beyond my capabilities.
Okay, we'll find someone who can answer that.
Okay, that might be a
Something
Mo
up.
question.
Yeah, if he joins, we'll ask him later.
Yeah, he was gonna join in place of Natalie tonight. So if he gets on, he probably has that answer. I don't see him on here yet, but.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yes, any other questions about it?
Do you see any in the chat that you could answer? I don't think I see anything.
Nope, I'll stay on for a little bit if anything
Okay.
comes up.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming tonight.
Of course.
Let's go to, as we wait for the lieutenant to get in, let's do, let's go to Michael Augustine. So he's here just as being a good neighbor. They are doing everything within the zoning, and he's been amazing to work with. So he is here. Michael, are you unmuted?
I'm good. Yep. Can you hear me?
And then can we unmute Mark Isaac as well?
And Brandon, if possible, I'd love to share my screen, and I'll be 5 minutes. I feel like I'm kind of at the risk of wearing out my welcome at this point, but I do want to keep everybody kind of up to speed. So I'll just touch on a few things before I share my screen with the some of the imagery that has been progressing. Is a couple things also we've done over the last couple weeks is we've worked with the Salt Lake City Police Department. We filed trespassing affidavits. We were just issued city issued trespassing signs, of which we'll have up in the next handful of days. I think what that does is, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar, is anybody can call now if they find anything going on our properties, the main building property of 24 Hour Fitness or the parking lot next to the liquor store. And it just gives police the authority to act without having any owner authorization. So Judy, thank you for the introduction to one of the detectives. And we ran that process through, so that was great. Trying to think what else. All right, I'll share my screen now. Again, trying to keep this to a quick few minutes. Let's see here. All right, I'm assuming you could see my screen. So just a few things I wanted to touch on. We've been working very regularly with our team, Mark Isaac included, architects, engineers, etc. We've also had a lot of productive meetings with the Parks Department regarding Fairmont Park, Salt Lake City Transportation regarding 1100 East, the road between our building and Fairmont Park. And we're working on the best solutions for our project, for the community, regarding just connectivity with the park. So I'll share a few images. They are a lot more progressed than last time, what you saw. Excuse me one sec. Let's see here, trying to control my, there we go. So a couple images we really wanted to focus on was the corner of our building. We've created it to feel much more residential. One of our last images, very institutional, but it was a concept drawing. And all these are still concepts. This is our main corner. So the view that everyone is looking from would be basically the corner of Fairmont Park where Ashton and 1100 East intersect. That's the main corner of our building. Again, we've created an indoor-outdoor amenity on the ground floor. The outdoor piece now is created with intent to be like a public art space. So we're working through several details still on what can be done there. With our landscaping plan, which is generic in this picture, it's more just a generic rendering. Our landscape plan, which I'll flip to in the next minute, does show a bunch of sort of planter walls along the wide sidewalk we have along 1100 and Ashton Avenue. It also continues subject to city approval across the street on Fairmont Parkside. And what we wanted to do is kind of create a timeline of the history of Sugar House and do some sort of plaque picture narrative on each one of these planter walls that you can follow in sequence along the front of the building, which we thought would be kind of fun. So again, that's one idea, but we're trying to figure out how to connect our building to the history of Sugar House. Some things that aren't shown on this image, which is actually on the ground floor, but hard to see, is, to try to keep with sort of like historic Sugar House and warehouse, et cetera. We're looking for either, applied mullions, but more of the square, configured, old warehouse building type of windows. So all the way up in this corner, up through floors 3, 4, and 5, we're looking to create more of that old school historic feel by doing sort of more squared mullion windows versus these modern storefront windows, which you're seeing now. So that's one illustration. We're really pleased about how the building is coming along. Again, it's still very much a work in progress, but this is our main corner, our main sense of presence and entry, and also our main connectivity with the park. So we're really focusing on it. Wood, irons, metals, a lot of things that are going to really embellish this section of the project. Let's see here. This is just the view from Highland going down the street to Fairmont Park. So basically looking west on Ashton. You can see both of our structures. Both will be, again, very similar in nature. Just our main larger building is on the right-hand side where the current 24-hour fitness building is. So it just gives you a little bit of perspective and scale of how our buildings will fit within this section of Sugar House. Here's conceptual landscaping, which we think is a lot of fun. Don't pay attention too much to like the coloring, but again, just sort of the interaction with both buildings, pedestrian crosswalks, street treatment at that main corner as we interact with the park. And we're also, again, working with the Parks Department, not only to figure out what we can do with our building and the street connectivity, but potentially embellishing the entrance to the park. So we're working with them on different components of whatever it might be, trellises, seating, benching, et cetera. So this is really neat. Again, it's more in concept. We are designing trees on both perimeters of property. Our trees right now, we're intending on providing more what's then required by code. So this was just a quick illustration to show how dense these street trees we're trying to get. I believe, if I recall from a call we had earlier this week, we're about 24 feet in separation versus code, what's 30. So we'll get a few more trees out of each of these perimeters. As we look up, we did show some perspectives, very rough perspectives last meeting, just of what it would look like from our 4th floor deck, looking out to Fairmont Park. So this was just another neat thing that we're doing as part of our building. Will be used for, our residents as our courtyard amenity. Will be thoughtfully designed, a lot of green, a lot of seating space, orientation to the west towards Fairmont Park. And then on the east side, we're doing something for pets and sort of a dog park with seating area, fire pits, et cetera, for views to the east and the Wasatch Mountains. So again, for this meeting, we touched on a few things. It was mainly landscaping. It was mainly exterior elevation. Those are kind of the things that, were brought up on previous calls. If I scroll back to, some of our early on images, the green, what you see in these green paths, pedestrian paths, the green that run alongside of the building is intended to be a dedicated bike path as they're marked on other streets around Salt Lake City. Our sidewalks are very wide. They range from 14 feet at the, I think, smallest, where you'll see on the left-hand side of this building, we have actual street level townhomes, all the way to 24 feet as you get to the main section and corner of our building. So again, don't want to wear out our welcome, but we do want to, keep the community, up to speed as to how we're progressing and really addressing, what we think we would have been doing anyway, but certain comments that have been brought up in the past. We're looking at a submittal, probably in 30 days from now, to start our process with the city. We really appreciate working with, this community council. Everyone has been really helpful and just sort of in communicating and making connections. We're really excited to be a part of one of the murals project. We're really excited to be a part of the economic piece. Why am I blanking on this? One of the Brandon, can you help me out? What I'm trying to, your group.
The chamber, you're helping out the chamber.
There you go. The chamber, we're really excited to meet with the chamber. One of the big, things we heard is how do we help supercharge some, sugar house entrepreneurs that may have had a tough time through COVID and a tough time just with, being redevelopment in sugar house. So we're excited to speak with a handful of them and see who may be the right fit. But the concept there is to, have some entrepreneurs come in for low or no rent, create a business around that for themselves, and also create amenity for our project. So there's just a handful of things we're really excited about. And I just wanted to thank everybody on this call. I will stick on and answer some questions in the chat afterwards, but as always, feel free to reach out to me separately. And if you have any questions regarding anything, thank you.
Thank you. There's some questions in the chat for you. Do you mind answering those?
Sure.
In the chat, would that be okay? And
Yep,
you're
I will
always
do that.
welcome, Michael. So you never wear out your welcome. We're interested in this property. So thank you for always keeping us apprised.
All right. Thank you very much. Yep. I'll go ahead and answer these questions in the chat as you guys move on.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Mark, are you still unmuted?
I'm unmuted.
Okay, so Bill Knowles is having trouble with his internet tonight. Can you touch on Boulder Ventures? Do you mind? Maybe open.
Well, I know that they're getting very, very close. They're wrapping up a few things. Every time they touch something, they discover some little issues or flaws, but they're really close to having first phase open. I anticipate that first phase of Sugarmont will start to fly around Easter, somewhere thereabouts. I was with Jeff earlier today, and they're pleased with the progress. The community is going to really, really like the building and the amenities. It's very, very well done. I'm pretty confident that we're going to have that streetscape and stuff all finished to everyone's satisfaction here shortly. The real trick's going to be, we've got construction on either side of Sugarmont with the Lowe's projects on both sides. And so they're going to be a little pinched when they first open, but that's part of the path of growth in sugar houses. We've all come to learn. A few more years to go by the looks of it.
Do you want to touch on Snow Grows? What happened on Wednesday?
Yeah, Snell Groves, just for those of you that have been involved in the path for us on the ice cream plant, we received unanimous positive recommendations from the Planning Commission to proceed with the rezone and for the positive recommendation for the master plan change necessary. We're into design review with the staff. We will be providing some design edits and changes for Judy and the land use committee and subsequently the planning staff. I think as a courtesy, I'll come and see you in the next meeting or two and demonstrate those changes. And then obviously we're going to be waiting in the queue for city council. So we're very, very appreciative of all of your efforts today. We're trying to demo that building within the next week, but we're actually leaving it standing right now for fire training. The fire department's going to do a bunch of training through the building for a while. As soon as they're finished that training, we'll knock it down. As I'm helping Michael on the 24-hour site and the Thackeray team on the Snell Grove site, we're having a heck of a time keeping people out of these buildings. It is an everyday intrusion challenge for us. So security is a bit of a mess. It's really difficult to keep people out of them. So as quickly as we can, we'll scrape it down to the concrete. It'll be that way for a few months, but we think it's a better, safer circumstance for the community. And then just so you all know, I'm going to be racing with some demo guys on behalf of Michael and the Alta Terrace side on 24-hour to get that down as quick as we can. They got broken into again today. I think it's a daily event at 24-hour. And the unfortunate part is we just don't want something bad to happen in one of our buildings in our downtown core. So that's all I've got for you right now, Landon. Sure appreciate the work you all do.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Thanks for pinching in for Bill.
Yeah, you got it.
All right, thank you. And
Bye-bye.
thanks, Michael. Lieutenant Trost is joining us. For all our long-term Utah fans, he played for BYU, so we won't hold that against him. But Lieutenant Trost?
I've asked to unmute him, but
I'll text him. I can't wait to be back in person.
tell me about it.
Is it not unmuting on his end? Should I go to Will?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So I have you on my phone and my laptop, and so I'm hearing myself in. So my laptop doesn't have video. My phone does. Well, maybe I'll just turn on my phone and talk to you.
However you want to do it. I told these guys he used to play for BYU, so he won't hold it against you.
Well, that is not going to be a great introduction. Okay. So hello, everybody. My name's Gary Trost. I love the Sugar House people, just so you know. A little history. I coached at Highland High School with Keith West, and I was the SRO there at Highland High, and I'm a Ram, and we had some great success there, and I still, to this day, have a lot of friends down in that neighborhood. And so welcome to me coming back, I guess. I'm excited. I'm happy. It's good to be back on this side of town and helping you all. So yeah, so I played basketball at BYU. No one will remember because that is such a long time ago that my kids don't even think I played. So let me tell you about what my new assignment is. Detective Meinzer, I hope he has joined you in the past. My current position is a administrative lieutenant over the Liberty Patrol Division. With our new change of structure, our model from CIU, the Community Intelligence Unit, to a division liaison officer, Detective Meinzer, I was lucky enough to choose him. He is absolutely fantastic. If you haven't had a chance to reach out to him, please do. He wanted me to pass along his information. If you don't have his information, I'll be happy to get it to you. He is going to be the community liaison for districts 5, 6, and 7. He was over District 6 exclusively until this change. So he does have experience working with the community, working with the city. He does a fantastic job for me. We actually changed the structure where there isn't a sergeant that he reports to. It's me. And so with our structure change, that puts me and the captain very much involved in District 7, District 6, and District 5. And so I'm happy to be back. In fact, I was over District 6 13 and a half years ago. I just got done with Yellcrest Community Council, and I was telling them that I remember going to those meetings 13 years ago. And it was actually right before I became the SRO at Highland High. And I also went down to Sugar House quite a lot and met with the, I believe it was the Sugar House Merchants Association. I can't remember the name, but we met there at Salt Lake Pizza and Pasta and had some good success down there. So my job tonight is to fill in for Detective Meinzer. He has been working his tail off. He needed some time off tonight. I need him to be at his best during the day, so I don't want him burning the candle too much, but I am here to help you all. And let me tell you a little bit about District 7, about what we're talking about in District 7. I bet you all are aware of what some of our concerns are with District 7. And right now, I don't know whether to say thankfully or not thankfully, but for the most part, in District 7, we are seeing if there are increases, it's going to be in property crimes. And I guess that's the good side of the coin. I like my property just like you all do. And so I know that that's offensive to think that there isn't a need to worry, which we are. But I am just so thankful that most of the person crime, if you will, looks positive. I'm very happy that some of the problems we see other places, District 7 seems to be doing well. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't see problems. We just had a ComStat report come out today, and we do see that motor vehicle thefts have gone up a little bit. Now, that means that we had 4 in the last 7 days in District 7. And that'll show an upward trend. Just so you know, we are combating that citywide. I don't know if many of you have been following the statistics throughout the city. We have done our best to try to get out public information to help people understand that second or minutes that they let their car sit out front to warm up is just too much of an opportunity for those that want to do you harm. We've tried to address the heat map. Thankfully, the heat map isn't showing right over District 7. In fact, it isn't showing over District 7, but I just point that out that we are watching the trend and making sure that we keep track of that as far as District 7 is concerned. I would say by far the things that we're most worried about are burglaries and vehicle burglaries. So the car prowls, if you will. And we're seeing a better trend. We're seeing the green numbers, and that's what we want to see. We're happy to see the green numbers on the chart. But as we look and you look under the last 28 days, and then you go the previous 28 days before that, and then the year to date, and we look at that because we want to see trends. Let me just ask you all, if you can help us, if there's a theft that happens, let's say from your garage or from your car, and you think to yourself, you know, all they took was, and you can just fill in the blank there, and you say to yourself, you know, I know nothing can be done. I don't even know when it happened. I think I shut my car and it's been there for 24 hours. I don't know who took it. Please don't be discouraged in giving us a call. And the reason I say that is we as a police department take our statistics very seriously, and we try to follow trends. We try to follow where the action is happening. And we can't create a heat map. We can't create future probabilities if we don't know that stuff is happening if you're in your neighborhood. And so when you do have those things happen, as discouraging it as is, because I've been there myself. My mother-in-law came to the house from Idaho, and I had to instruct her that after she got her purse stolen, left it in her car in front of my house, that Salt Lake City isn't Ashton, Idaho. And so where she can leave it on the potato farm, I'm pretty confident the one neighbor she could probably find. Here in Salt Lake City, it's not a good thing to do. So please report those things. I know it's discouraging. Yes, we probably won't be able to find that person at that moment, especially when time has passed, but it gives us a better feel, because frankly, if we don't know about it, then yes, we get frustrated too when we don't get good numbers. And I know a lot of things are affecting you all. And so we want to know that. And that's why Detective Meinzer is absolutely willing to field any of your frustrations, your concerns, and we talk about them. In fact, I put him in this really, really nice office, even though he left me tonight and made me technologically challenged tonight. I want you to know that he and I talk every day about what's going on in Liberty Patrol. And we have hot spots we're trying to work on. Our bike squad is at full staff, just so you know, and they are doing a fantastic job. We have a park squad, just so you all know, that's fully staffed, and they have the responsibility to hit all the parks in the city, including those in Liberty Patrol. So we are anxious to hear those concerns. We've heard from a lot of you already, and hopefully we're getting out to you. Does anybody have any specific questions, any numbers, anything I don't know that I know cases that well.
Hey, Lieutenant Trost, so we're taking all questions in the chat just because there's been some Zoom bombing at community councils. So do you mind answering those in the chat?
Sure, let me see if I can get to that. Yep.
Okay, we're gonna have we're gonna have Bill Knowles talk while you answer those, but thank you so much for coming tonight.
You betcha.
And the Utes lost earlier.
Oh no. Oh no.
Thank you.
Gosh.
All right, Bill.
Hey, Landon, I don't see Bill connected to audio. Do you know his phone number off the top of your head?
No, I'll text it to you and we'll get him back. Let's go to Will Coker and Brandon Dew. And I'll just let Will take it away. Hey, Will.
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Great.
Thanks for getting a haircut.
Yeah, no problem. I want to dress up for you, Landon. It's about as good as it gets. I lost the mountain man beard. So today, wanted to invite my good friend Brandon Dew. He's with the Central Utah Federation of Labor, and he and I are going to talk to you about a proposed project that we're going to be taking to the Sugar House Park Authority, creating a monument that kind of gives a historical perspective on the history of Sugar House Park as the former state prison and its most famous inmate, Joe Hill, the labor activist. So Brandon's gonna kind of take it away here and talk to you about Joe Hill, who he was, a little bit of the history, and then I'll hop back on after that.
Perfect. Thank you. It's great to be with everybody tonight. Thanks for letting me come in front of the council. This is such a historic council, and it's good to be in front of you. And it was nice to meet Landon earlier in the month. And Mr. Chair, thanks for letting me come on and present to the council. So just real quick, I'd like to give you guys kind of a brief history. Most of you would know this history better than probably I would, but Sugar House Park used to be the location of the Utah Territorial Penitentiary. Sometimes it was referred to as the state pen. And it was built in 1855 and ran until 1951 when the inmates were moved to the Utah State Prison in Draper, which is now short-lived as well, most of us know. Starting in 1900, death penalties were carried out by firing squads at the state pen, where previously they were done in the counties in which the prisoners were housed. In fact, in 1903, as disturbing as it may sound, there was tickets actually given out where families could go watch these shootings at the state pen. So this really tells you how far we've come as a society, that it's no longer acceptable. After moving to the prison in Draper, 9 sticks of dynamite were used on the heavy walls of the old state pen, having very little impact, and they actually dismantled the state pen stone by stone over the next several years. Proposals and repurpose of the land after the demolition. There were several proposals from amusement park to campground, golf course, and shopping center. But thankfully, I think all of us can agree the most beneficial part was it is now Sugar House Park. So what an incredible thing we have in our community. So what does this have to do with the request that Will and I are presenting to you guys tonight? The park has such a rich history in our community, but honestly, from those of us in the labor community, it has an even richer history. One of the most notable inmates, I'd argue probably the most notable inmate at the prison, was a union organizer by the name of Joe Hill. So Joe Hill was a songwriter. He was a traveling laborer. He was basically a labor folk hero and a labor martyr. So Joe Hill worked in New York, Chicago, where he was terminated and blacklisted for trying to organize a union there. He then went to Cleveland, Ohio, and California. In California, he served on the San Pedro local as the San Pedro local union secretary. And in San Pedro, this is where he wrote most of his famous labor songs. Some of you would know The Preacher and the Slave and Casey Jones, a Union Scab. From San Pedro, he went down to Tijuana, Mexico, and he actually worked to try to overthrow a Mexican dictator down there and emancipate for the working class people down there. After that fell apart, he went up to San Diego, protested the closing of downtown streets for street meetings, and supported strikes for Italian dock workers. So this brings us to his infamousy here in the state of Utah and how he ended up in the state pen. On January 10th, 1914, Joe Hill knocked on the door of a Salt Lake doctor around 11:30 p.m. at night and asked to be treated for a gunshot wound. He said he was inflicted by an angry husband who had accused him of insulting his wife. And earlier that evening across town, a grocer and his son had been killed. One of the assailants was wounded in the chest by the younger victim before he passed away. Hill's injuries therefore tied him to the incident. The uncertain testimony of 2 eyewitnesses and a lack of corroboration of Hill's alibi convinced the local jury of Hill's guilt. And even though neither witness was able to identify Joe Hill conclusively or finding a gun to tie to the murders, Joe Hill was convicted. A campaign was to exonerate Hill began 2 months before the trial and continued up and even beyond his execution by firing squad on November 19th, 1915. His supporters included socially prominent daughter of then Mormon church president, labor radicals, activists, and sympathizers, AFL-CIO president Samuel Gompers, and the Swedish minister to the United States. Sweden is where Joe Hill was born before he came to America seeking employment. Even at the time, President Woodrow Wilson had asked to stay his execution. The Utah Supreme Court, however, refused to overturn the verdict, and the Utah Board of Pardons refused to commute Hill's sentence. The board declared its willingness to hear the testimony. The board declared its willingness to hear testimony from the woman's husband in closed session, but Joe Hill actually refused to identify the alleged assailant, insisting that it would do harm to the reputation of the lady. So ultimately, when right before Joe Hill died, he tried to speed this up. He said, "My will is easy to decide, for there is nothing to divide. My kin does not need to fuse and moan. Moss does not cling to a rolling stone. My body, oh, if I could choose, I would to ashes it reduce. And let the merry breeze blow my dust to where some flowers grow. Perhaps some fading flowers then would come to life and bloom again. This is my last and final will. Good luck to all of you, Joe Hill." So basically his most famous saying though was, "Don't waste any time mourning, organize." That was his statement to the union, to those in the movement then and still today. So I think what we would like from the community council is we're seeking your support as the community to help endorse this idea of a monument. So we have no preconceived notions of what this monument is. We would like it to be in Sugar House Park, as this is where Joe Hill was executed. We believe it would bring many people from around the world to the park, and from the labor community, it's somewhere that we could gather and celebrate Joe Hill. And so we would just like to ask the council that you guys would be willing to support this idea of putting a monument in the park before we go to the park authority and ask for their permission. So turn it back over to Will.
Will, can you unmute yourself?
I just got it. Thanks.
Okay.
Appreciate that, Brandon. So the community council, our stated mission as a council is to identify plans and projects that enhance the beauty and the vibrancy of our neighborhoods, celebrate our history, and activate the community's parks and open space in a positive manner. The reason I wanted to bring this for you is I feel this project clearly fits within these goals. It would highlight not only an important part of Sugar House history, but also an international historical figure with ties to the community. I know that this would be a draw for Utah's 62,000 union workers and countless retired union workers, which would benefit local businesses and the park authority through events and permits, that kind of thing. The project would also add another piece of community art in Sugar House and would incorporate local artists, possibly even members of IATSE, the local union for artists and allied crafts. Brandon, in talking with Landon and I, has expressed a strong desire to work with the community council and the park authority to ensure that this is a project that not only celebrates our shared history, but incorporates our shared ideas for what the project should be. So we don't have any, set concrete plans for what the monument would be at this time, because we need really to get permission from the park authority to start looking into, what that monument will look like, how much space would be given by the park authority. And then, we need to go out and fundraise for it. So right now we're just asking really early permission, and through the process, we would report back to the community council and to the park authority. I feel strongly that we should embrace and share this piece of history. So what I'm seeking today is a motion from the council to write a letter of support to the park authority, supporting the proposal. And I would also ask that the chamber consider a letter of support. I'm happy to answer any questions in the chat and would seek a motion at this time.
Hey, Will, we'll send a letter of support out to the community council trustees, and then we'll have it back to you by the end of the week. Does that work okay? Since we can't see faces and everything.
I think that would be fantastic.
Okay. And then you guys are on the park authority board for Thursday, correct? On their agenda?
Yes, we are on the agenda.
Okay.
So. Yep.
Thank you. Thanks for that. And Judy wants to make a motion now. Can you unmute Judy Short, Brandon?
Is it working? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion. We approve Will's suggestion that we write a letter to the Sugar House Park Authority telling them we'd like to support a monument to Joe Hill in Sugar House Park. That's really cool.
Thank you, Judy. And Landon, I do see a second from Erica in the comments.
Okay, awesome. We'll get a letter to the Sugar House Park Authority.
That's just the kind of funk we need in Sugar House.
Absolutely.
Sally, can you unmute Sally for me, Brandon?
I did put a little note in the chat. There is a nice smallish monument that talks about the prison being in that location on 21st South. Actually pretty easy location if people wanted to pull over. Just a thought that it might be a spot to add this to that. It talks about the dates the prison was there. It's a red stone wall. It's not real big and it kind of sits back in the trees a little bit. So I don't think a lot of people know it's there, but this might actually bring attention to both the history of the prison and the whole Joe Hill thing. Might be a good spot to put it if they approve it.
Yeah, that would be great. And there was an article a couple of weeks ago in the Tribune that was pretty interesting, where the State Department of Archives is actually it's only the third time they've ever done this in their history, but they're crowdsourcing Joe Hill history and kind of embracing this part of Utah history. So I think this kind of fits right in line with what the state is doing as well. So I think this is a great idea, and we appreciate all the support from the council. Thank you.
Well done, guys. Well done, Brandon and Will.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
So there's a question about the Sizzler property. Judy, can you address that since you're still unmuted? I mean,
Yeah, tell me what the question is.
well, I mean, what's going on? Last I heard, we've met with a couple different developer groups. As far as I know, they both kind of backed out because it's just a tough spot. Do you know any more information on that?
One of them actually told me that they haven't really pulled out, but they're still uncertain what they're going to do, if they're going to do anything. Soren sent me a text today, and I don't quite understand it, but he said that the Pratt Coalition, Parley's Trails, I guess, was their meeting today, Sally? And they talked about trying to get, I don't know, wanted to talk to us about the Sizzler property, like we have control over it. So he's going to be on the land use agenda on the 15th of March to
Okay.
talk about whatever it is they want. Well, I don't really know. The asking price is huge. You can't put a trail on less than an acre of land for that kind of money. That's crazy. That's about all I know.
Okay.
The owner's probably just holding out for the gold.
Sally has a comment real quick, Brandon, if that's okay.
Yeah, he unmuted me. Thank you. I was in that Pratt meeting, and I think the Pratt Coalition is the Parley's Trail just wants to make sure that whatever is developed on that corner either has some connectivity with the Sea Lily and the trail, you know, the Parley's Trail goes down through just below, or maybe a connection up so people riding bikes could go up to that property if it ends up being something commercial. So, you know, that's their concern, is the impacts on Parley's Trail itself.
I think the people we've talked with have both said, you know, that would be something they would try to do.
I think that's why Soren wants to be included on your agenda.
It's just really hard because the park closes at 10 o'clock. If it's a restaurant, they can't park back there because if they're eating till 11, what do we do? So
And no liquor license because it's a
liquor
park.
license because it's a park.
Maybe Chick-fil-A. Let's go to Blake Thomas. The Chick-fil-A marketing director is on here. Let's have Blake Thomas. So Blake Thomas is the new director of CAN, which is Communities and Neighborhoods. It's a huge job in the city. I thought it was really important that you guys meet him. He's awesome. We've had a couple drinks in my backyard, and he tolerates my outdoor cat, and so he's going to do a fantastic job. So take it away, Blake.
All right. Thanks, Landon. And thank you for letting me pop in tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. Some of you know, happy to get a drink in anybody's backyard and cat friendly. As Landon mentioned, just a really short background. I started my career in the governor's energy office, and I was hired to work on transportation projects. It was a new position focused on alternative transportation, and they defined that as any mode of transportation other than a single person in a single vehicle. So it was a pretty wide scope, and had a lot of fun working on those projects as well as renewable energy. And then got lured over to Salt Lake County by Ben McAdams and spent 5 years there, and left as the economic development director, and did my bureaucrat shuffle and went from the state to the county, and landed at a place I'm really excited about at Salt Lake City with Mayor Mendenhall. I appreciate the opportunity to give a quick introduction to our department, Community and Neighborhoods, affectionately known as CAN. We're a pretty big team, and I'm bullish on our mission and our ability to help influence the growth of our city, to be intentional and thoughtful about that. and to be inclusive and sustainable, and trying to preserve affordability. If only it was that easy. Real quickly, there'll be a pop quiz at the end, but we have 6 divisions. So our department includes building services. So Orion Goff, the chief building official, him and team. We also have the capital asset and real estate services team. That is Dan Ripp, if any of you have worked with him, help manage our city assets, run the CIP process, deal with impact fees and various things. Engineering teams, Matt Castle, housing and neighborhood development, also known as HAND. Lonnie Agertson Goff is the director of that team. That also includes our homelessness engagement and resource team. We also have planning and zoning that Nick Norris heads up. And last but not least, our transportation team headed up by John Larson. And I think there might be some transportation team members on the call. I peeked when I popped in. So that is the portfolio of CAN. We provide
No, I didn't.
we provide critical city services that help the expansion and growth of Salt Lake. We are playing in the affordable housing space and homelessness engagement and response, managing our city's assets, overseeing zoning and building plans. We're working on multimodal transportation systems. We get really thoughtful emails from Judy Short that I just recently received and really appreciated. And one of the things on the forefront of our mind is our growth, with a projection I recently saw of 2030 having Salt Lake City's population at 225,000, which will bring change and challenges. And so we try to find as much time as we can during the day to work on forward-thinking solutions and policies and programs that help enhance the quality of life of our residents and our businesses. I believe it's gotten distributed through the Sugar House email and newsletters, the mayor's 2021 priorities, which is, I think, a really great ambitious list. And she's tasked us to look through a lens of prioritizing growth with equitable benefits, making the city more environmentally resilient, and our neighborhoods being inclusive and equitable, a real placemaking focus. So, one thing I'll jump right in quickly to the building services and civil enforcement team that I alluded to earlier. So as I mentioned, that is Orion's team. Within that team is civil enforcement. It's CAN's largest division. And their primary charge is to provide safe and orderly development and construction of all private property projects across the city. As far as primary responsibilities, building permits, building services, and civil enforcement of code violations. They typically do around 11,000 permits a year. And in 29, they were just short of 11,000, and the market valuation of the permits that came and went through the building services team had a market valuation of just over $1 billion. And one fact that I'm happy to report, unlike some of our retail and restaurants and other small businesses that saw such a hard hit with the pandemic, we are just closing out the 2020 numbers, and we broke 11,000 permits this past year. And I hope my memory serves me correct, but around 1.3 billion in market valuation for what we processed through that shop. In addition to the ahead of schedule opening of the new Salt Lake City airport, which required a separate 15,000 inspections, and we had employees just basically living at the airport. So that was a big once in a generation type project. A little bit about the capital asset and real estate services team. They manage city-owned property. They control that inventory and public infrastructure holdings financed through bonds or other funding mechanisms. They manage the public right-of-way uses like telecom infrastructure and special events and encroachments. When you're adapting to COVID and trying to have outside dining permits and other accommodations, that's typically run through the capital assets and real estate services team. Also, as I mentioned, the capital improvement program, which usually gets a minimum of 5 times dollars requested versus what's available. So a really popular program that I wish there was just more funding for. And those projects align with our 10-year capital facilities program. One of the last things I'll say about that group that I'm excited about is really trying to think about the city's public assets and our opportunities for public-private partnerships and generating revenue through some of our dormant or neglected assets. So I've got that team working on several RFIs for properties that we own that I'm excited to get out into the community, and we'll be sure that that this group is aware of that when it hits. So everyone has an opportunity to take a peek and share it with their developer friends. The engineering team, they do design and procurement support on all the construction projects funded from various sources, including the CIP program, funding our future initiatives, street improvements, city parks, office buildings, bikeways, sidewalks. I believe I saw Cabot in the chat. The engineering team will help design and build streets, and there's a streets team in the public services department that helps with the ongoing maintenance and repairs of those roads. So the engineering team helps from the conceptual road design component and with bidding and construction. They also make sure that privately funded construction in public rights of way and subdivisions and street improvements comply with our city construction codes. There was a good robust discussion yesterday at City Council about 5G cell towers and how tricky that can be to navigate as a municipality in terms of some of the federal and state requirements that really tie our hands in terms of what say we get to have over that. So that's an issue that we're digging into and really trying to revamp our design guidelines and be able to be as creative as we can within the bounds of the law to have some say over the aesthetic and placement of those towers. The engineering team also has a small GIS, Geographic Information System department, where they have project and permit information maps and city data, pavement conditions, and funding our future maps, the bulk of that being public facing through their website. And lastly, they house the city surveyor and the city architect's office. So it's never a dull moment there, always a party in engineering. The next group that I mentioned was Housing and Neighborhood Development, known as HAND. They're tasked with the tall order of developing and enhancing a livable and sustainable neighborhood by providing funding and programming that supports affordable housing opportunities and reduces income inequality across the city. So there are a lot of our homelessness services and funding that run through that group. Real briefly, it's been a whirlwind year for that bunch from a federal standpoint. There was a special one-time $7.1 million from Housing and Urban Development that City Council just approved the passing through or distribution of those funds to community partners who help individuals experiencing homelessness. And there is just north of 6 million that we just received from the Treasury Department for rental assistance for those at risk of being unsheltered. And then it's also just right now our typical yearly HUD entitlement season, which is between, I believe, 5 and 6 million this year, and have applications that we're vetting right now. So it's been a healthy chunk of change that has run through that team. And they're also responsible for growing SLC, which is our 5-year data-driven housing plan that gets updated and submitted to the state by statutory requirement each year. Transportation, John Larson's team. I love the focus that team has on a multimodal approach to our city, focusing on equity as it relates to transportation and having a variety of options. They do studies, they collect data. I'm sure you're familiar with the neighborhood typologies project that they're working on. We have a RFP, and I believe just selected a consultant for a traffic calming project and study. They work hand in hand with UTA to improve our transit services across the city. They add traffic signals and signage and markings and other devices in the streets as warranted. And they also help as well in the design services side of streets, intersections, byways, and trails, and review site designs and new land development projects. And the next team that I'll talk about is planning, Nick Norris's team. And I think that as I'm going through this, you're seeing all of these kind of cross-pollinating and interconnectivity opportunities in order to be a smart, intentional city as far as the policies and projects that we do and how we try to intentionally shape the future of the city. I think all of the fun and innovative things that the transportation team is doing is as productive or useful as our planning team has as it relates to the land use adjacent to those transportation projects. Speaking of a team with no small task, the planning team is charged with adapting to the changing needs and demands placed on neighborhoods and business districts as a result of growth. They work in a world where they're thinking now about policies and ordinances that will impact our growth in 10+ years, which I think is a creative and interesting place to be in. They work with the community on master plans, and their emphasis is access to housing and employment and transportation and open space. They help provide information to property owners and business owners on information on the impact of development regulations. They monitor our growth trends. They participate in community-specific master plans that help meet the needs and characteristics of neighborhoods. They're a talented and busy bunch. That is the team. Those are the divisions that make up the Department of Community and Neighborhoods. As far as Sugar House specific, we have specific goals and project plans for your community. I think this is a really awesome and engaged community council that, again, I'll be brief because I know you're aware of everything that's going on, but just to give it one highlight, we're focused on implementing the projects that were identified in the local link study as a high priority. Thinking about limits to the right-of-way, knowing that those will impact some choices and decision-making, and it's hard to get everyone that they want what they want, but that team is committed to transparency and conversations about those trade-offs. There's a fun student project to explore options on 2100 South in the coming months. It'll give us a running start once the time comes for the city's official engagement and design process next year. So we'll have a fun team of students helping do a little advanced work. The Highland Drive design will be developed in close coordination with potential transit investment, and the transit alternatives analysis will wrap up this spring. That was primarily on the transportation side. And then lastly, on the engineering side, they have a slate of planned road projects in Sugar House, 900 East, Hollywood to 2700 South. That's ready to bid. Construction's happening this summer. 1700 East, 17th South to 27th South is ready to bid. Or I'm sorry, that is scheduled for 2025. 1100 East curb and gutter. So really Ramona to 21st South. That was a constituent request. It's scheduled spring of 21. We have 2100 South, 7th East to 1700 East scheduled for 2025. There is no shortage of infrastructure projects coming to your community, including canal replacements, sewer replacements, aqueduct crossings, and partnering with UDOT. So it's just a nonstop party in Sugar House. And I appreciate I hope I didn't rock everyone to sleep. I appreciate the opportunity to introduce myself, and I'm really looking forward to meet those that I haven't yet met.
No, thank you. But I mean, it's important that everybody knows what you do. So thank you.
Thanks. I keep busy. I appreciate it. Feels validating to say all the stuff I have to do every day. So, I appreciate the audience, but
I had a hell of a time getting into the meeting tonight. So thank you.
I had to use the Gmail hack. So, slcgov.com was not loving getting in here. So thank you for multitasking.
Blake, do you mind leaving your information in the chat or how they can reach you for stuff, I guess?
Yes, I would love to do that.
Thank you. Thanks for coming tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So we're going to go around the room for some committee updates. We try to do this every few months. I'm going to start with Levi's transportation because he couldn't make it tonight. So as Blake alluded to, the capstone project with the University of Utah students is continuing. And I hope to have some of the students come in April or May to join us and talk about the project. Their next transportation committee meeting is March 15th at 7 p.m. And they're going to talk about the 900 East construction that is happening this summer. Let's go to Judy Short for land use and zoning.
Okay, Mark already told you that the project for Snellgroves got rezoning approval from the Planning Commission. That's going to have to still go to the City Council. So that could be, 2 months or 2 years. And then he has to come back for design review. So we'll see that project probably several more times. And another project I have on the agenda, this is for March 15th at 6 p.m. There are 2 parcels, 1844 and 1852 East on 2700 South. And whoever owns those would like to combine the parcels and then I think split them into 3 and put 3 houses on it. I haven't really looked at it. I will get it up on the website so you can see it. But I wanted to answer a question that's been floating in the chat about those wonderful 5G towers that we're seeing sprouting up everywhere. I had a conversation with somebody on the City Council this morning because he's worried too. And yes, it's the legislature, but it's also the federal government. Federal government really says we can't muck with any of that stuff. None of our business. So, I brought up to the City Council person, I worry that this is just Verizon, but what about T-Mobile and AT&T and all the others? Are we going to have just this parade of antenna? And at least we ought to have some things in the ordinance that say, when it's 5G is out of date and you want 6G, you have to take the 5G tower down before you can put another one up. So I don't know where that's going. It's going to be a problem and we may not be able to make much progress. Thank you.
Let's go to Sally with the post committee, parks, open spaces and trails.
I just want to add one more thing or make one more concern with Judy about these 5G towers. We're seeing them, of course, popping up everywhere, and these are just the Verizon ones. And they're telling us that you could end up where there's one, there could be 3 or 4,
Right.
depending on how many providers. It's just, it's ridiculous. And they, while they're not real tall, they're not real small either. And they're putting them in park strips right outside of people's homes. So when you look out your front window, that's what you see. And you have no control over your park strip when it comes to those 5G towers. Okay, now that I've said that, because it's also open space. It's kind of an open space issue. Parks, open space trails. Right now we're working on getting Friends of Parks organizations set up. I think Judy has got Gilgal Garden signed up for a Friends organization. Imperial Park has been set up. And of course, the one we're all kind of watching has been the very successful one in Fairmont Park, which has been going on now for about 3 years. So this just allows the Public Lands Department to call on parks groups to help with some of the maintenance and special projects, special plantings, things like that, and maybe activating areas for education, getting children involved in gardening and open space issues. So that's what's going on there. We're still a little bit on hold, waiting for the city to finish up a plan for a volunteer project for helping with all this tree planting that's going to be taking place. I think pretty soon here in the spring. We want to make sure that all the new trees are being monitored and watered. And so there'll be a volunteer group working on that. And then the Pratt board continues, which is Parley's Trail, the one that runs through Sugar House Park, continues to work on funding to try and complete the trail from 9th West, which I know isn't in Sugar House, but 9th West over to the Jordan River Parkway, which would then make an awesome connection from the Bonneville Shoreline Trail on the east, on our east bench, over to the Jordan Parkway. So you could traverse the 8.5 miles right across, right down through the business district of Sugar House. So that'll be really awesome. Just still working on that last amount of funding to get us across those. I think it's like 9 lanes of traffic on 9th West. So nobody wants to do that on a bicycle. That's going to require a big overhead bridge. And then also connecting over across the Jordan River. So that's a very, very big project, still working on funding. There's some hopes to maybe get some of that through the legislature this year, some transportation funds from the legislature for active transportation. So I think that's everything I have right now. Thanks, Landon.
Thank you. Next, we're going to go to our chamber. So let's go to Brandon and Erica.
Hello, everybody. We have initially we're in the phase of really just getting ourselves organized, getting the committee members on board. We've had a couple of meetings thus far and they've been great. So now we're moving into the phase of looking at our major initiatives for the coming year, and also looking at expanding the ways that entities can donate to help support our local businesses. Brandon, would you like to chime in?
No, I think you nailed it. We are still running our Sugar House Strong campaign, which we kind of moved over under that umbrella. It's still doing really well. And we're hoping that we're going to get back to kind of presenter-led monthly meetings next month with presenters that are hopefully interesting to business and community members. And you should see more information about that in the next probably 2 to 3 weeks.
Awesome, thank you. Let's go to Tim Cosgrove. We're going to end early tonight. Let's go to Tim Cosgrove. And I gotta say, Tim has been working for over a year to clean up a camp that's behind Fellowship Hall down by, what's that, Little Saigon, down in that area. He can kind of touch on it, but it's given him some gray hair. So go ahead, Tim.
Well, first you set me up by we were going to end early tonight, and then you went, and then now
well, you've done an amazing job with that, so I have to give you kudos.
And now everything I've been dealing with is giving myself gray hair. But thank you for noticing. And thanks for having me. Yeah, I was going to jump in with some of the things the mayor's been working on. Let me address that point first. Our CAT team, our community action team, is multi-jurisdictional, multi-divisional community response team where we look at quality of life issues throughout the city. And sometimes they're complicated where they require both civil enforcement, law enforcement, county health department, adult protective services, animal control. I mean, pretty much anything and everything you can do to address some of these more complex issues. And we were able to abate one of the encampments that we've had for several months down on Windsor, and get that cleaned up. Detective Meinzer and our civil enforcement team, as well as our housing and neighborhood development with homeless services, did a huge lift this last 2 weeks to do a cleanup and abatement of that camp. We probably took 3 dump truck loads of garbage out of there, but it looks 10 times better now. We still have a lot of work to do. I will put the link for our homeless services dashboard in the chat, so you can kind of see the community commitment program and our response and our referral to try to address all of those encampments citywide. I know it gets frustrating at sometimes because they seem to take time, but we can't do all of them at once. And so we have a process where we meet every Thursday to identify those encampments and prioritize how we can get to them with collaborating resources as efficient and effectively as we can. There were 2 more this week, and we have 2 more already pre-planned next week. So it's a Herculean task, and our homeless services team does an outstanding job in trying to address all of that. And I can talk some more on that issue if you'd like. I did want to post a really neat little 5, or I think it was probably 6 or 7 minute video with the mayor asking for her thoughts on her first year in review and where she's headed next. It was kind of fun hearing from her, because being stuck at home like many of you, I don't get to see her as much as I used to or like to. So just seeing her, and she does such a great job. It's kind of fun to see where we're headed and some of the exciting things that she's been working on. And it was fun to hear Blake's take, and he's in on the inside with some of that. So it's fun to see where we're headed. But this week, the mayor came out with the new innovations department that you may have remembered when she kicked off at the beginning of the year with the State of the City address, that she was initiating a first ever innovation department. It's going to really change the dynamics, the way we've worked within the city. It's going to create the culture within our city government to really modernize our business processes and our standards that we use to approach. Blake talked about the equity, looking at it from a lens in every department, every division throughout the city, with a level of equity dispersed throughout the city, improving our transparency, our public transparency, and streamlining some of those inefficiencies when we're promoting and using data to drive our decisions. And there was a really good interview. It's a little bit longer, probably 50 minutes. I'll include that on the link on the chat, so you have that and you can learn a little bit more about the innovation department. I know, oh gosh, what's first name?
No.
No, thank you. Walkingshaw, yes. Was that Judy? Thanks, Judy.
Yep.
Yeah, Noel Walkingshaw was appointed as the mayor's chief innovation officer, so CIO, our new chief innovation officer. And he kind of has like a similar background experience to Blake. He kind of stepped in at the beginning level within the city and started working from the ground up. So he has a lot of experience and has transferred and worked with a lot of the departments. I know his first identification of areas that he wants to tackle and approach are with human resources, finance, and implementing our new ERP, the Enterprise Resource Planning. That it's a system that will help the mayor with new innovation and ideas that we're implementing throughout the city. So that's kind of exciting. That was some exciting things this week. What else? I know.
Hey, Tim, brown garbage cans. I saw March 8th. Is that right?
Yeah, March 8th, Department of Sustainability will be able to take those calls and you'll be able to get the brown waste picked back up again. We kind of go on a hiatus during the winter months, but it looks like spring is picking up quick. Let's see. Oh, in addition, I did want to touch on Lieutenant Gary Trost, because they and Detective Meinzer, to his credit, he's just been so great to work with. They had a what do you call these online meetings, a virtual online meeting for any of the community councils this week that were interested in setting up a neighborhood watch. And it's not the old neighborhood watch of old. It's much more innovative as well. And they use technology, they use principles like crime prevention through environmental design. They use more of a neighbor to neighbor kind of just getting to know your neighbor to help keep an eye out on crime. But I will put that link in if you weren't able to attend that meeting. That was something that was new this week. And they also announced, don't forget to go online and register your bike with the SLCPD bike registration program, so that they have a document they can find bikes with their attached serial numbers.
Thank you.
Anything else I can try to address?
I can't believe you can talk and type at the same time, so thank you. We're gonna unmute Cherie Coford just to talk about Sprague Library. I think we're pretty close to opening. Will, Brandon, do you mind unmuting her?
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so we are getting really close. We still have a couple of tables coming for furniture, and then our IT department is going to come in and set up the computers. So we're hoping to look at mid to late April for like an opening, some kind of opening. And with dignitaries, we're trying to get them, connect with the mayor's office as far as maybe doing like a ribbon cutting. We don't have an exact date yet. We're still working on that. And then after that opening, we will have tours for the community. So if someone wants to sign up online, we're going to take groups of like 5 throughout the building. So that should be, the public tours should be hopefully at the beginning of May. So end of April and beginning of May is what we're looking at.
Awesome. We can't wait to have our meetings there again.
Yeah, same. It's beautiful. And I think y'all are just going to love it. So
awesome. Well, thanks for the update.
Yeah, thank you, Landon.
I don't really have anything else. Are we okay to adjourn? Sally, do you have something to say? Do you mind unmuting Sally, Brandon?
Maggie sent a text and she's on now and wondered if you still had just a minute for her to give an update on the Arts and Cultural Committee.
I don't see her. Do you see her?
No, I don't. So I'm going to text her back and say, you got to be on the Zoom to give a report. Okay, sorry.
Okay. We'll end early. Thank you. Thanks for everybody coming tonight. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lieutenant Trost. And we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Len.
you all.
Bye, guys.
Good meeting. Thank you.
Hey, Landon,
Yeah, Tim.
you still on?
Yeah.
Hey, I got a letter back from John Larson for the support from transportation.